Good afternoon. Let's reconvene. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Cleveland.
Here.
Vice Mayor Preen.
Here.
Commissioner Hartman.
Here.
Commissioner Martin.
Here.
Commissioner McGurk.
Here.
Thank you.
Having been through a robust morning session, appreciate those that had the diligence to come back. Thank you all for joining us here at the strategic workshop for your city. City Manager, would you like to set this up, sir?
Yes, please. About a month and a half ago, we were approached by Ignacio, who owns a business on Flagler. He's a realtor. About a proposed project that he was thinking about. He owns the property at the corner of Cooper and Flagler and the southeast corner. He also was looking at kind of like a very unique concept where he's going to have a restaurant, probably some condos, retail shop, office space, and also to address some of the parking issues on Flagler. And it just happened that this is adjacent to our Jessamine parking lot, that it's owned by the city. That property was purchased through the CRA back in, I guess, in the 90s. It was purchased at the time to be used for parking during the streetscape on Flagler. It remains as a parking, public parking. There's no charge at this point for that parking, the use of the parking. And also it has about 28 spaces. So Ignacio approached the staff with the idea that he wants to combine that property to this Jessamine parking lot, whether it's through a lease process or whether through a buy process or sell process. At this point, we haven't decided which option we would recommend to the commission because there is some complexity there in terms of if we lease the site, he is going to build kind of like a two-level parking garage there. We will gain quite a few spaces besides the 28 spaces that we have. So in terms of economic development, I think it's a very unique project. But in the meantime, there is a lot of legal issues that we have to iron out before we move further. So I thought that it'd probably be a good time for Ignacio to present this project and his view on it, and then we could figure out and listen to the commission in terms of any concerns or any comments that may have. So with that,
I'd like to invite Mr. Ignacio Barsotelli to come up and outline his presentation along with his wife, Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you, Jarks. Oh no, this is not the same program, isn't it?
Shark Tank.
Shark Tank is for us, we're always a little intimidated, but thank you for having us. Respectfully, mayor, commissioners, all the city, all the neighbors, we receive a lot of support. We are really proud. And yes, it's kind of the first time that we do this kind of presentation. So if we have some gaps, I will appreciate you help us to keep moving forward. My wife, Melissa Barsotelli, my name Ignacio Barsotelli. We can say we are in 401 Flagler Avenue. We live in 119 Harding Place in Edgewater. And we have been living in New Smyrna 5 years. For 5 years we have been working and living here. And we decide that it's a gorgeous town where we want to retire, where we want to do the rest of our life here. What we are presenting right now is a vision that it was tailored or custom to the city because of the many hours that we expend when we bought that property. I work as a realtor with Colado Real Estate. And I opened an office just across the street from her. We bought the purple house that used to be a wicker basket, an icon, 1909 house. so many people ask me why you didn't turn it down. And I said, I love the charm. I may be crazy, but I love the charm, and I think it have a lot of potential. And I really believe holding history, there are smart ways to do. So we decide, no, there are ways, and we would love to show you what we have in mind. But I see how the city is booming. I hear that it's not growing in population like popularity, and I have been witness on that, and it's incredible the amount of people that we receive in holidays that we receive. It's just sometimes very challenging for all the resources that the city have to invest. And of course, I hear the word parking in this room today over 100 times. Parking is really, no matter where in New Smyrna, is a challenge of parking. So I would like to address a presentation that we prepared on what we think is a custom or tailored solution, part of the solution.
I'm going to try to do my best with this voice. Thank you for the opportunity one more time. So we don't have to preach to the choir, and we all know that New Smyrna Beach, it's an underrated destination. It has been more and more popular, and everyone is knowing this is a charm town even more and coming this way, especially to the beach area. But like any other city, has been facing some challenges, and there's traffic congestion and parking shortages, again, especially in beachside. I'm gonna put this video, it just takes a minute.
Parking headache in town.
Yeah, the city recently created a parking task force to take on the challenge as police crack down on those causing more issues in the meantime. News 6's Molly Reed shows their ideas so far and what else the city is doing to address the problem.
That new parking task force is looking for ways to expand parking around the city, especially here in the Flagler Avenue area. But in the meantime, the city also just passed an ordinance increasing the penalties for those who break the parking rules.
The more people hear about New Smyrna and the more popular we become, parking is a premium.
Unless you're lucky enough to get one of the couple dozen parallel spots on Flagler or a spot in one of the half dozen or so lots, there aren't many options.
And what we see is people kind of taking advantage. They're parking the wrong way. They're taking their parking ticket and considering that a good deal and just staying there all day, right? Or they're blocking roads.
Chief Eric Feldman says under the new ordinance, officers can now tow or boot more illegally parked cars on top of issuing higher fines.
People come in and they block their driveways. They park the wrong way, in front of their homes, or they just are waiting for the beach to reopen during high tide, and they just park in the middle of the road.
The city created the parking task force in March, bringing together 7 business owners and residents. Right now, they are looking into hiring a traffic monitoring system or creating more paid parking spots. The goal is to learn how much traffic is coming in. Then they could determine how many more parking lots or even garages may be needed.
I think a garage is going to be a necessity at some point.
Kevin Corby, manager of the Seahorse Inn, says his staff has to watch their parking lot constantly.
They will park right underneath the no parking sign and start to walk away, and we have to catch them.
And with the 4th of July around the corner, the chief says that was their busiest day last year. He expects this year to be the same and says plan ahead. He says that ordinance went into immediate effect, so they will be down here that day looking for those breaking the rules. In New Smyrna Beach, Volusia County, I'm Molly Reed getting results, News 6.
So that's a summary of what is happening. This is some highlights of that we think, and we have listened to citizens in our New Smyrna Beach, like a garage might be necessity in this area. So we have thought very carefully, and again, it's growing also not in popularity, but also population, and we just had the previous presentation as what is coming in New Smyrna Beach. So it's definitely growing, and everyone wants to go to beachside, and it's going to be definitely congested.
Well, this is a little bit of the vision. This is the property that we shared to have everybody an understanding. The red side is our property, and the yellow side is the public parking for the city in Jasmine. You see that it's also an easement that go from that public lot to Flagler. This, for so many hours staying there, we was trying to go and try to understand, because honestly, when we talk about garage in the style of New Smyrna, I have to steal your words when you was in the lighting of Flagler. You said New Smyrna is kind of the Hallmark movie town. And I do real estate. I live from the town. I will love to keep the charm. I will love to keep the beauty. With all due respect to Miami, I don't want a little Miami. I don't want overpopulate. We don't want a lot of concrete. So how do we do? Because when you talk about multi-level parking, also it's a structure that is challenging to cover. So this was a little of thinking in how we can address this. In the beginning, understand that right now you have in that parking lot 28 spots, and we can increase these 28 immediately to 40 in the way of the accommodation of parking, also using the retention pond in more wide way, but also in the assemblage, in the ensemble of lands. When you put two pieces of land together, then you have also space on the setbacks. The other approach that we think it could be important, if we just change the easement by Flagler just for pedestrians and not for vehicles access. If you see in the majority of the parkings, the congestion happens when the cars try to go in. And, well, it's generating more congestion in Flagler for the cars going in and out. In our opinion, it could be good to pave, to follow the same pattern of pavers that New Smyrna have in the hallways, and make all this a pedestrian access to the parking on the back. And with if we create 40 space in the public parking and 36 space that we can create in our land in the ensemble, it could look something similar to this. Our proposal is to make two entrances, but always one way of parking. The technicality using one way of parking is not just avoiding congestion, but maximizing the use of space. So we are considering to have two access by Cooper and one exit by Jasmine. If we have the two access by Cooper, we can create all these lines of cars, and we will optimize the resources. And this is the vision that we have, how could it look. Of course, we have been meeting with the engineer department and with the development department, and this has to be adjusted. It needs to have the woofers on landscaping and beautify, but the concept is clear on the accommodation of parking space. And then, if we go a little further, what we call Flagler Commons, I don't want to take any... Flagler Commons, Larry Williamson, one of my best friends and colleague, he said Commons. For me, you see my accent is not from Massachusetts, so for me, the Commons is where commons come, and I want to see the etymology of the words. And it's very interesting because it's land or resource that belong to the community for the common good. So I love Flagler Commons as a total project name. So here is a little of timing on what we think if the city would love to entertain. I think when we come together, when the public and private sector come together, is when we shine as a city. So in my opinion, if you have, you give us the blessing to move forward in this project, this is how we can move. As fast as this summer, create the assemblage of these two lots for us in the private sector. After the permits, it will take 4 weeks and you will have all this done. I'm talking about just the regular parking that we have assembled as a one lot for the 76 spots. So based on permits, based on the timing of the city, after that, in 30 days, we can accomplish and deliver to the city if it's possible for this summer. I don't want to be rushed to anybody, but I'm just giving you tools. If you want to, we can have 76 spots this summer. But on 2026, or a period after the permit approves, because we will need planning and we will have to work together, then we will start building a two-story building. I want to go in little detail so you don't think we are just doing sketches because today do Photoshop is too easy. No, it's a lot of calculation here and a lot of hours in the idea how to do two-level parking. The idea is to do one level underground, but just 5 feet underground and 2 feet above plus 1 feet of concrete. So the pitch that the cars for the ramps will have, it will be good enough to don't take a lot of space in the challenge that we have. And then the second story, it will be 3 to 4 feet high for the ramp. So the pitch is doable without taking so much space on the parking. Of course, in storms, I know the questions will come. I'll tell you my opinion. In storms, we just have to shut down. We just have to, whoever is in the public parking, let them know that, and put the signage properly that wherever is a storm, they have to remove the parking, the cars, or we will remove it. So this is, in our opinion, we can do pumps, we can do retention ponds, we can do all the engineering that you want, but Mother Nature is stronger. So it could be flood. Let's be clear, we are doing a pool underground. It's we don't want to cover the sky with our hands. But what we have to do is to take the correct measures to address. And then to cover the parking, this is our vision. As you see, at 2027, build 9 units, 9 townhomes. We pretend to do 3,000 square feet units, high-end. We already interview the owners of Platinum, the owners of Hickson. We want to mention what kind of contractors are we seeking for. We are seeking for 5 stars construction. And I don't mean 5-star construction to exclude anybody, but to do bunkers in the level of the construction, not in the value of the property, but we are thinking to do concrete block all the way to the top with a tile concrete roofing, and this is the kind of construction that we are thinking. On the exterior, and then on 2028, finish with all the commercial that is the walkable experience in Flagler that I will show you in more images. This is a facade from Jasmine. The car garage doors that you see there are fake. There are some technicalities. We can use this or we can use green walls, but the point is that we don't have much space after the building because the street, the city was already made a little for different times. So there is not much space, so we have to maximize, but at the anyway, make it beautiful, make it look great. And I don't know how familiar you are, but if you drive from east to west by Jasmine, you see all the back of the restaurants. So in my opinion, one of the concerns is what the neighbors across the street will say that you put all these townhomes. If I'm the neighbor, again, I'm doing real estate every day, I will say thank you. Now I will have a $1.5 million condo. How much is my house now? I'm just addressing a concept, just to be clear that in my opinion, we are beautifying the area. We are upgrading, upscaling, and the kind of construction that we are using is to not estimate in how much will cost, but to do the other aspect in the construction. If you see, it's very, very similar because we took ideas from Riverview Hotel. We want to hold the Victorian style. We want to hold that charm of New Smyrna. The density is coming. We are in a city that is growing in population. The point is what we want to do. We want to do a cube, or we want to do something charm and nice, and this is what we are proposing. This is a very nice facade that shows how the cars will be in the interior. You will have one car under the ground and another car above at the level of the garage. The proportion is not exact because these garage doors are, in this case, almost 11 feet tall. If you see, you can compare with the stairs and the central door that is entering to the lobby. This is a little bit that we want to show. We want to show that one way in each part, it will save a lot of space. One way in, down, one way in, up. And the same in Jasmine, one way out, down. Because if you use the conventional 2 ways in, 2 ways out, it will take so much space and it won't be optimistic in space. And then a big bicycle rack. Why? We really want to promote. I think eventually, even though we think we will need some cars, there are some theories that are saying that I was listening to you 10 years, 20 years, who knows, no? What I guess is that in 20 years probably will be Uber and it will electronic self-drive cars. What I will guess that we will become a more walkable town. And anyway, for population density will be obligated to. So I think have a very good of the promotion of bicycles and alternative transportation will be good. For sure, accommodation. There's another, how Jasmine and Cooper will look. And then there's a video that I want to share with you on the whole concept. So if you see what we call the pink house, the 401 Flagler, we are thinking to raise the property. This is another facade by Jasmine. There's the interior of the townhomes and then a total open concept. The idea is, even though you can accommodate a lot of people, a lot of room, density, it can always be open. This will be filled by kiosk. Food court, now they call food halls. A food hall or a food court, however you want to call it, the idea is to have kiosk, small kiosk where you can go with the family and enjoy different kind of food. The intention is to have local cuisine. We don't promote any fast food or chains, just local cuisine. This is another view. As you can see, where I will have the air conditioner in your house. Here we will have open. Here we will have plants. Here we will have steamers. The folks, you know, you have been many times in Disney, and you are in a shape, and you don't need it. If you have been in the Garlic, you see that they can also use air conditioner when it's outside. There are ways to keep the environment open, and we promote that, and we want to do that. It's just our proposal. I think it will be more friendly for the community. Here you can see, what you see in the top is what we call the pink house, the 401 Flagler. We are thinking to elevate that property. Different facades, and the siding, another aspect. If you see the siding, even though we will use concrete blocks, we are thinking to use on top hardy board to look like wood, to imitate the wood, to be like another Victorian house. So we want to keep that charm in the town. The colors have some comments from people who have been seeing the presentation, and I think is we are one of the K in Central Florida, so are very, very nice, and it will be good to have. The pools that you see there, the intention is to have water features, not swimming pools. It's a 3 feet pool. It's something to have as a water feature for the condos. If you want to share a little bit, what are our...
Just a quick summary. I'm just going to mention a couple of benefits of the multi-level parking, and they'll be maximizing space utilization. It'll be efficient use of limited space, increased parking capacity, ease traffic congestion, improve aesthetic appeal, green with green or living walls, artistic facades, and modern designs. So it could be visually appeal for the public. It's going to be they're going to be enhanced security, equipped with security features, control access points. It can help deter theft, vandalism, and other security concerns, making it safe for both vehicles and pedestrians. This is going to reduce environmental impact. There's more space available for green parks, environmental friendly uses, and convenience, accessibility, providing convenient access to various points of interest, such as the shoppings there, the restaurants, the offices, the mail, time savings. Finding a parking space tends to be quicker and more efficient for the drivers that come visit New Smyrna Beach. Economic benefits can contribute to the local community by creating jobs and generating revenue from the parking. Reduce urban sprawl and support for growth. So the multi-level parking can encourage economic growth and urban development by providing the necessity parking infrastructure to support new ventures. And beautifying our town by enhancing the visual appeal. We are trying to create an inviting atmosphere, improving overall quality of life for residents and visitors. And this is the overall, the design of the beautiful townhomes. We would like to have landscaping and greenery, local artisanal restaurant shops. We're going to have on the pink house real estate and a health practice. And on top, we are looking forward to have a coffee with all the history of New Smyrna Beach. And while planning all this design, we have carefully considered the following points. And that's being the urban design and planning, the landscaping and greenery, the public art, how can we integrate public art into it, street furniture, including benches, public seating, so it's appeal for the citizens while they are on beachside, and especially Flagler, the street lining, enhance the town nighttime ambience, historical preservation, again with our pink house. We're trying to raise it so we can preserve that history and also share with the public, pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure as well. We'd love to host public events. We have been doing this for Christmas, and it has been a very positive impact, and people just love being there, and we want to make it also family and child friendly. New business opportunity, of course, we're going to try to bring in the food hall some good cuisine, local, environmental sustainability. I don't know if you guys know, but my husband, for the past 20 years, he has been an environmental consultant for various companies around the world, including Microsoft, Walmart, so big companies. So he's really into what is conservation, environmental. So everything that we're trying to do here has to be done in a way that we can also engage in a sustainable way. Wayfinding the signage and signage, ensure that the signage that we provide blends with the city and the aesthetics, public transportation, promoting options to promote accessibility and reduce congestion, seasonal decorations for special occasions, and promotion and marketing, highlighting the town, beautification, also on social media so they can visit us.
So the idea to have open concept, the food hall, the food court, the commons, is the intention to have kiosks, but as we have been sponsors for the Flagler Business Association since we are here for 5 years, we always use the small porch in Flagler, and Frank, I don't know if everybody knows Frank, the one who prepare and coordinate all the events. There are 56 events that happen in Flagler. We would like to host them. Why? Well, because there will be the kiosk with permanent activities. So we would love to have a core of attraction. So for us, having a very active calendar in an open concept ambient is our vision, our idea. And this is a challenging one. She said that I need to find a natural, real one. It's a big tree, but I'll do my best. Worst case scenario, it has to be a fake tree, but we need a tree there because we think it will look fantastic. This is the view if you are in the easement, in the very corner on the parking, public parking and the easement. What you have as a column of crystal is the elevator to have accommodation. And this is something that I would like to address in detail. 3 years ago, when I was talking about raising a property, I have been called crazy, literally. And 2 years later, the city was involved in the project. So I said, you see, the city is doing it right now. The city is doing it in many. So the house that you see, I don't know if you have an arrow here, but it's in the corner, the blue one, is in Ocean and... Goodwin, thank you, Lisa. And this is real. It's happening and happen all the time. And we want to go 14 feet and then, of course, do the construction underneath to use every inch. But going further on this concept, then we learn, I was in the New Smyrna Museum, and they showed me that the Riverview Hotel was raised. So we are not reinventing the water here. We are trying to do something that... And when we talk about the cafe on history, is that if we hold that house on top, that is a 1909, our intention is to do a touch. And of course, it's part of the marketing, it's part of the attraction, it's part of the beauty to invite the people to go and see the history of New Smyrna. Our intention is what is our office right now. There are 900 square feet. It will be 14 feet high. It will be one of the kiosks, but this will be an old-fashioned cafe, and we will like for the New Smyrna Museum to cure in a way that you have the whole history of New Smyrna, with all the beautiful pictures. I already bought a lot of pictures, but I will need them to cure the walls, to put the people to understand that New Smyrna is one of the oldest cities in the States. This is a before and after how it could look. And beautifying Flagler Avenue, family-oriented, improving the walkable experience. This is key. I think it will beautify a lot that corner. There's another facade. You're seeing the front of the building right now.
Is that in front of, if I'm standing on Flagler looking
Yes,
at it?
Exactly. So, yes, this is the front. And this will be all the front, from the easement all the way to the corner. If you see, we are optimizing every inch, literally, on the use of the property. And then you will have 130 cars undercover, totally hidden. I know the city needs 700 cars per garage. Well, we are adding a little bit. 120 is a very good portion and very good help. And I know your question will say, how much do you need for the condos? Well, because we want to do high-end condos, we want to do 2 spaces per condo. So we will be using 18 spaces for the condos. We will be using, we want to give to the city back the double of the parking that you have today. So if you have 28, we want to give you 56 spots for public use. And then the rest of the use of the parking, that is a kind of, I don't know what is the understanding or misunderstanding, because even when it's public parking, even when it's private parking, it's public, it's for the public. So we will have also our 70 spaces to complete the 120, but it's for the use of the public. It solves the problem. So if you have 28, you will go to 56, and if we have 36, we will go to 70 spots. So we're in 130 parkings easy that we can accommodate on that road. By the way, we donate to the city the survey. We just did the survey and we checked the space available, and yes, we confirmed that it's 100 by 150, your lot. It's clear and good to use. And we went also in the engineer and development department to see the setbacks. Their suggestion is to do a PUD for this project, but we are trying to hold without asking for any variance, because we are thinking to have this on the 42, max 45 feet on the construction. Pretty much is our vision, and if you have any question.
Ignacio and Melissa, thank you for your presentation and the time you've spent to put together this thoughtful plan. I'm sure we'll have questions today and going into the future. And so I'll look to my colleagues here to see if you have any preliminary questions. We'll start with the Vice Mayor.
I've had a few sent to me by citizens. I'm going to ask you those, and I have a couple from myself. First, can the property be constructed without, can your property be constructed without the city property?
Yes, thank you. We don't mean to. We would love to do together. Together we can do more. But yes, our property, we can do 5 condos, and we can have 45 cars. We could do ourselves, and very good. We think about that because we are not immortal. And I said, do I want to go to all these? Because it will be tough if we challenge it. And at the end, believe me, and I can sit with you and go by numbers, not necessarily. It's not that it will be so much profitable. No. It's just that we'll solve a big problem, and it will look better if we do something combined. But yes, we have the rights to have 5 units and to have the commercial up front. We don't need the city, and we don't need the easement.
Okay. Will the value of the city portion equal what the city will receive in return in the future?
Great. I think we'll multiply so much. Property taxes, economy moving, service. Our obligation as public servers is to serve the community. We will provide so much more parking. If we do just our portion in parking, we will accommodate a limited amount of parking. Then you may have to do the same in the future. I don't know how you will do, because the access will be challenging. I hope you don't try to put a ramp in Flagler. Public and record, I will oppose. Please don't do a ramp in Flagler. Because construction has some limitations. So your land is a little confined. So if you want to maximize parking space there, well, it's challenging. We have the blessed that have access for 3 streets. So we can do the half mezzanine garage to optimize. I already went to the engineers. Everything is starting in our land. And then we said, well, what happens if we go to the other land? But yes, we can do our land. And
Did you want to comment, City Manager, on the financial? We're still evaluating what the best financial arrangement might be.
Yeah, we haven't done any financial analysis, as I mentioned early on when I introduced the topic, whether we lease or we sell the property. Obviously, if we lease, we will get revenue, continuous. If we sell, it will be a one-time shot. The problem is if we lease and he's going to build on it, that's where we have to come into a very legal issue that the city attorney is actually searching for. So,
Okay, and then let's look at the lifting of your historic home. You showed a photo of the one on Goodwin that is being done now. Has anybody actually analyzed that is a possibility from the people that do the lifts? Have you had a structural engineer sign off or
Lift the
talk about
property?
that?
Yes, I have an estimate. I not just have an study, an engineering study,
Okay,
but I also have an estimate how much will cost and how long will take.
thank you.
Yes.
So we've been discussing private and public partnerships like this. I love how you think out of the box, and I appreciate all your hard work you've already put into this and thought and planning. And I don't know how it looks with the income coming and how we would charge for the parking or any of the numbers, but I assume that our city manager would bring back scenarios to us to look to decide if we want to lease or sell this portion, because as you said, I don't know that we have enough room to build a parking garage behind the post office as it is now as a government project. That would be a lot. I like this idea of partnering with private citizens, and I just want to thank you for bringing this to us today. I don't know where they're going to go with it, but I appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Commissioner Hartman.
So I think this is one of those projects that will make it an opportune time for the city to do some enhancements, to create some additional parking. And certainly, I think they've done their due diligence in trying to make it aesthetically pleasing and appropriate. My only question is, and he mentioned it, they can do this without any variances. So the only thing that actually is tied to us is what we do with our piece of the parking lot. So that's truly the only decision that we're going to be making. Is that correct?
correct. I think it's the idea is that we gain as we are looking for additional parking spaces. I think it's the combining of our lots or our property with his project. I think that's when we gain the additional parking. If he does it without our property, he will provide the parking spaces required for his project, but he would not have any additional spots for us, for the public. So that's the difference.
So some of the things on social media has been, you know, the city commission shouldn't allow this to happen. Well, it's not really whether or not we're allowing it to happen. It's going to probably happen anyway, because he's a very passionate individual. Our only involvement is to whether we include our parking, the property we own for parking, to create additional spaces on top of what is already there and existing there. So
That's
yes.
exactly what that is.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Commissioner Martin.
I so wish that Cooper, Flagler, and Jessamine looked anywhere near as nice in reality as they do on this presentation. But
we can do it. If you do it together, we can do it. There are many people like me that we want that, and we fight every day, and we work 80 hours a week, and we are beautifying New Smyrna. We love New Smyrna. We will do something better for sure.
Loved the crosswalk on Jessamine, wish there were sidewalks on Jessamine.
Yeah.
And Cooper. Have you verified that you'd be able to get insurance with that underground garage? I'm just so concerned about water intrusion, and we know water can interact badly with concrete. I just wondered if you had verified if there are any, insurance problems.
Yes, very good question. It is. It's expensive. I think eventually it will come a regulatory thing in what is happening in the insurance industry, but this is another conversation. But yes, it is. It's expensive.
Okay.
But there are many people involved that will be attached to that payment. You have 9 homeowners that will be there, and you have business people who will be there to, that if they want the parking, they have to understand, as any other HOA, there is a consequence in insurance and they have to pay.
I hear you. Somebody in the insurance industry asked me if you had verified that at any cost, insurance would be available to you. So it wasn't a matter of how much it was just if it would exist. So just wanted to see, you know, I know I drive a small car, and I love the idea of small car parking, but we know our reality is a lot of big, oversized pickup trucks. And I just noticed all your parking images show my size cars, which...
Yes, yes, thank you. Thank you for addressing that. In my opinion, the first level, it has to be, and this could be one of the concepts that we were talking, instead to variance, go PUD, because my concern is, look, we are taking 140 cars out of the street. And then, which cars? I'm sorry if you are the owner of a monster truck. It's not that you are not welcome, you just have to park in another way and come and eat. In our recommendation is that it has to be one line for compact cars. It has to be one line for compact cars. And then the maximum that we will accept it underground, it will be Cadillac Escalade. I'm not doing branding, I'm doing the biggest SUV ever. Imagine a Ford Excursion. So this is the maximum that you can get in on the first level. On the second level, from your engineer office, it was a good idea, and they said, well, you can go up because you have another feet. So on the second level, we can do all the way to 8 feet 4 inches. So it's the regular parking car garage. But our intention is just to accommodate small vehicles and the most conventional vehicles, largest as a regular.
So all the numbers, all the calculated assumed parking spaces are for what I'll call Lisa-sized vehicles.
Well, you know, at least you are taking cars out of the street anyway.
Oh, I'm
The
not
amount of
disagreeing.
parking
I'm
that
just
you're
trying to
taking
make
is
sure that
anyway.
I understand how those numbers, you know,
Yeah.
are calculated. One of the things that I'm wondering about is, again, this has been brought to me, because I don't think of these things on my own, is the impact on the surrounding foundations of buildings when we create something so close in. You know, you have to de-water it. We've got the water table. We've got this. We've got that.
Very good question, yes. For instance, when we plan 5 feet, it's because we went to the utility commission. We know where the sewer, public water,
Yeah.
and all the services where they are. 5 feet, at the 6 feet is where the sewer system is. Anyway, you will need pump, and all these kind of questions will be addressed by the engineers who will be building.
So we are
move
looking
forward.
at the impact of the vibration, the building, not just on our sewer pipes, but on the foundations of the surrounding buildings. Because there's a lot of buildings there. It's a small area. And when you work in that small area, you're changing the ground, if you will. And so there's always that chance.
And Commissioner Martin, when he does the design, the structural engineer will take into consideration the adjacent properties as well, in terms of his foundation and the foundation adjacent to his property. So that's a normal process when they do the engineering design.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions from you, Commissioner Martin?
No, I'm good.
Good, okay. Commissioner McGurk?
So ambitious project. It's fascinating. I got some general comments on it. The way I look at it is it's really 2 different projects. One is your project, and the other one is dealing with the public's property. So I don't want to call it a 2-headed monster, but clearly in just each one of those in itself is going to be a challenge. So finding a way to merge these together is going to be a task that is not for the faint of heart. So be patient with us as we work through this. Did you say we're going to go from 28 to roughly 56 parking spaces?
Yes.
Okay. I noticed the parking spaces are going to be underneath the residential condo units.
Yes.
How late or what time are these public parking lots going to be open? Do you have any ideas? Is it too early for that?
No, it's very premature to talk about all these kind of specific regulations that we have to in place. As in any other public parking, my vision is the beauty to be living in 2023. Today there are so many sensors, lasers, cameras. It could be 100% automatic system. This is my vision. I haven't done the analysis on the cost, but as you have any other public parking, for instance, the one that we use as a reference is the one that is at front of the beach. That one have a meter system, and then after certain time you don't charge. The only that we see that it has to be addressed and in every ticket that we give to the person is that in a case of an emergency, if you don't move your car, we will tow and remove the car.
Yeah,
the
no,
only,
let me-
for the first floor.
My general concern is this is the public's property, and we're going to need to have this property be similar to what our city public lots are open now. And I just want to, if I'm buying $1.5 million condo and my cars are mixed up generally with the public's parking, you may run into some technical issues about people hanging out in the parking lots, the comfort level. It's just, there needs to be a dynamic there that is going to work for both people. So I'm just bringing that up to just touch on the possible complexities of what we would be discussing down the road.
Commissioner McGurk, just so I answer the first part of your question, if he leases the lot, this will be a paid parking because we have to get revenue out of it.
Understood.
So in terms of like how late does it open, because it will be gated, so this way you have to pay in order to get in, or if you live there, then you just have to use your car to go in. So that will address the issue, the timing that you have. So I'm sorry, go ahead with the second question.
That kind of does, but this is for a detailed conversation for later. There's going to be a lot of details with how the public are able to park on essentially a private development. So it's just more of a FYI, heads up, that there's going to be a lot of opinions out there on how that should happen. I want to get into a little bit about your design. How much frontage do you have on Flagler? Roughly how much frontage is on
50.
Flagler?
No, I'm sorry, I'm 100.
Okay, so the project has about 100 feet of frontage on Flagler. Is that current or with the additional city property?
No, just current.
Just current, okay.
We own 100 by almost 200 if we take the easement portion that was took 20 or 30 years ago. There are 8 feet that was took in the expansion of Flagler. So the survey, it's saying 100 by 189 something.
Okay, thank you. Some suggestions on this. Some of this is, some of your conceptuals here are very good, and I'm able to see the quality of your project. Some of them are a little deceiving. The frontage, having a better idea of what it looks like, if I'm standing across the street on Flagler and I'm looking at the whole front of the project, I think would be very beneficial. Because in a lot of these pictures, it looks like a giant closed-in box. However, from the image you're showing me now and the one that moved around on Flagler onto Cooper and then onto Jessamine, that, especially the frontage of the project, showed a very open, nice development. So You go back one.
Back one.
So looking at that, if you're telling me that that's what you want to build on Flagler, I'm very open to that. But when I look at these conceptuals from a distance, and it just looks like big boxes, looks like a massive project. Just a suggestion.
Thank you. I will share with you the
So
presentation.
my point is
What you
that
have.
that gives me a very good idea of the openness and the airflow and how that would really look on Flagler. That's a very good idea. I'd also recommend that some of these conceptuals actually show what your project looks like around. You have some aerials that look like some sort of aerial, and then you've been able to, put into place some of your projects. I think your project is very good, has a lot of potential, and is of high quality. The point I'm trying to make is I'm not sure that's getting through on some of the conceptual designs that you've provided. Just a suggestion.
Yes, we can have time, we can do it now, or
Well,
whenever
no,
you
not
want to have time, but
No, I'm just saying, going forward, I think some conceptual designs that should give a better idea of what the project looks like if I'm standing on Flagler, across the street on Flagler, and kind of how it fits into you got a lot of woods and trees around it.
yes.
But that's not Flagler.
So pines are
my
not,
point is,
do
give
not
us an
belong
idea
there,
of how it
yes.
fits into into the street and the surrounding areas. Just a suggestion.
Thank you. I will clear up all the pines that are from Maine. These are.
Mr. and Mrs. Barcatelli, thank you so much for using your imagination.
Thank you.
Thank you for thinking about what the possibilities are. And I appreciate the fact that you're taking the chance on something that Commissioner Perrine and I talk about often about public-private partnerships. It is a complexity, and working with the city is a blessing in many regards and a challenge in others. So you're in for an experience. I am grateful for your vision to make an improvement in our town in keeping with what we want it to be as a town. The Victorian features, the compaction of utilized space, the imagination with which you combined three things, actually: a living space, a shopping and experiential space, and a parking space into a complex. I think that is exciting. You've heard it, you were here this morning, you've heard the phrase, the devil is in the details, so it is with this as well. And so as the city attorney works to find our way clear to provide options to protect you and to protect the city, the corporate city, from liability and whatever, and find out how to best work as a partnership, it would be my hope that that is the way we proceed as the partnership. That is the only way we stand to gain parking availability. I would commend to you if Mr. Pendergast, a former chairman of our parking task force, has the time and availability, that you talk with one of the parking task force members. He is the president. If you could, you might want to talk with him about some of the ideas. He has the added benefit of a side business that might be to your benefit as well, architecturally. I look forward to the next steps, and maybe city attorney, city manager, you might detail what next steps look like for this, and then maybe give us a feel for the timeline, how this might proceed.
Well, first, I guess we need some blessing from the commission to move forward. If that's the case, then the city attorney and I will look into the two options that we have. Option one is to lease the Jessamine Parker lot, and option two is to sell it. And then we got to do a financial analysis to see which one is more economically feasible for the city. We have not done any public-private partnership in the past, so this is something new. And again, you mentioned that it's the devil's in the details, so her and I will be looking at this very closely just to make sure that we secure our interest.
Let's sum it up, Carrie, for you as well. Is that?
Yes, if there's commission support to move this forward, I think the first step would be a proposal submitted from Mr. Barsatelli. There's statutory requirements on what would be in that proposal. And then we'll take it from there step by step. It will be a lengthy process.
Perfect. Any more discussion by the commission? Can I get a consensus that we would like to pursue examination of this project? Is there any objection to that?
I would like there to be a lot of due diligence because we're talking about something that would have a huge impact on one of our big economic generators, which is the culture of Flagler Avenue. So due diligence, please.
Very good. Any other comments? Or is the direction clear then that we would like you to proceed with all the due diligence that we would expect from any major project similar to the one we talked about this morning?
Believe me, we will be crossing the T's and dotting the I's in every step of the way. As I mentioned, this is the first time, so we will make sure that that's done, the due diligence, and also we'll keep you updated along the way.
Very good. Have you got any questions, Melissa or Ignacio, for us or for the city manager?
I'm just thankful. We just have to say thank so much. Thank you. Thank you for having us in this town. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to keep growing and to put our little grain to make New Smyrna Beach beautiful every day.
Thank you for your presentation. We'll see where this leads. Thank you both. And now let's go on to the items that we brought forward as a collective body, and you can lead us through that, sir.
Very good, Mayor. Thank you very much. We have we called it the LDR discussion issue. So I have received comments on items to be discussed by Commissioner Martin, and the items were as follows. The first one is commercial abutting residential properties. The second item is beachside revenue for maintenance. The third item is parking regulated to the rear of the buildings on State Road 44. And I will ask kindly Commissioner Martin to lead this discussion.
Actually, as in light of a lot of other things, first with infill. One of the things that we feel very strongly beachside is the impact of infill. I don't know if you've seen the new accessory dwelling unit on Cedar that's, I think, 3 times the size of the front house. And what we're having is some fill and build that is shedding water on the existing homes so we are exacerbating flooding. And when it comes to the land development regulations, I'd like to see would like to get consensus to have real attention paid to the methodology and requirements for infill. I know West Side is getting a lot of infill also. But we're really feeling it beachside, and it is a deep issue or a deep concern. And also I'm getting a lot of pushback about size of a lot of the buildings that are going up. And it's not that anybody objects to anybody having a large house, but when you have one that dwarfs many, many, many of the other houses. So how do we retain the neighborhood, the culture or the feeling of a neighborhood without denying the property rights of a purchaser? It's a difficult balance, But if there's any way to, thread that needle and find a way to take care of both, that would be good. Now, a big deal impacting, again, so much of New Smyrna Beach is commercial abutting residential properties. You know, we have many areas where functionally a fence separates commercial from residential. And there can be an equilibrium, we've seen it, between these commercial areas and the residents behind them. If we take the ABC Liquor as an example, ABC Liquor was a great tenant. Haven't heard complaints about Tractor Supply. I haven't heard complaints about Verizon. So there's a lot of different types of businesses that can go along that commercial strip without taking away the property value of those residents behind it. It would be very difficult to sell a house with a restaurant functionally in the backyard. So I'd love to, and our land development LDUs do support the concept of protecting residential properties when they are adjacent to commercial areas. So thought how we could have that happen. And remembering also that residential behind commercial, particularly on 44 US 1 where we have sidewalks, depending on the businesses that go in, that really supports the concept of multimodal mobility in terms of being able to visit those businesses. And one I would like commission consensus on, beachside revenue for maintenance. The beachside is a notoriously difficult environment. Volusia municipal governments with coastal access share a difficulty with maintaining areas that are heavily traveled by beachgoers. And as we heard today, we use that as a big attraction. Come to New Smyrna, live, work here because of our great beach, but we don't get any additional revenue to support the beating that that whole area takes. Under current agreements, Volusia County gets all revenue from beach access. None of that is returned to the municipalities to help with the damage created by using that ramp access. A small surcharge could be added to beach fees. This money would be apportioned by the number of vehicles using a ramp, with the resulting funds given to the city for a restricted fund dedicated to beachside maintenance. What I would like to get is a consensus from the commission for me to work with Volusia County coastal commissioners to form a consortium to go to the county and say, we need help. We need help. You know, everybody's generating all this traffic. On the beach side, we need help making sure it's the kind of environment people will want to come to visit. And we need help. It costs a lot more beachside. Could I get any feedback on that?
What do you want? I'm willing to give you feedback on each one you brought up.
Well, first on the consensus, anywhere you want. Go ahead. Thank you.
Hang on. Okay. Any more?
Well, that was the big consensus I was looking for, was getting that.
Okay.
And the other one is more a visual than anything else. It's just asking about parking. Right now, our land development regulations are set up to sort of put parking in the front. So you're coming down 44 and you see a sea of parking lots. But that parking could just as well be moved to the back of those buildings as we evolve. And so you come into town seeing more of good-looking business frontages rather than a sea of parking lots. So that's...
City Manager, before we start in, can you update the Commissioner and the rest of us on how you currently tend to each of those issues that she brought up? And that may guide our conversation. Some of them may be already on your radar scope and others may not.
Currently, the Development Services Director is working on quite a bit of LDR issues to be revised. Normally, what you want to have is you want to have an overhaul review of the LDR, and that is costly. It's probably $150,000. But rather than doing that, our staff is doing, taking it section by section and doing these revisions on the LDR. So some of these issues that Commissioner Martin has mentioned, we already have been looking at. For example, the infill. But the issue comes in where if you're asking about reducing the size, so if you have a lot that it's an R2 and the building coverage is supposed to be 60% and this is what you allow, then we're getting into the property rights that we have. So that's a bigger issue than just revising the LDR, because if you do that, then it becomes like the lawsuit that we're dealing today. But some of her issues already are discussed. Same thing is like when you're talking about regulating parking on 44 to be in the back of the building rather than on the front of the building. That's another LDR issue. I think it could be changed, but then again, the building might not cover the whole entire site. So take, for example, some of the dealership. So the building is like, say, it sits on the west side of the property, but now almost 3/4 of the east side is vacant. So what do you do? Where are you going to put the parking? Like in these car dealerships. So in some areas it might be, yeah, it's okay to say, hey, put it in the back when you have a small property that you're dealing with. But when you have a large piece of property like these dealerships, it's kind of hard to restrict the parking in the back.
Are you expecting a lot more dealerships on 44?
I'm not, but I don't know. I mean, it's right now.
I understand. All of these things are evolution. Yeah. We can't change things overnight, but we can try to evolve as we move forward.
Yeah. And even if you have a big box store on 44, same thing. You know, it's not a dealership, but it's a box store. So what happened is, here's the box store over here, and then the parking. So you might have some parking in the back of it. What happened to the side of it?
I don't think anything needs to be 100%. I think there are degrees. How's that?
And that's fine. I mean, that's what... so they are, Mayor, to answer your question. Some of her issues are being looked at as we speak. In particular, the infill issues. And that is a concern of mine, as we have dealt with a few instances, like just recently, where somebody's building adjacent to a house. Based on the requirement from FEMA in terms of the elevation, that has created an issue. And also our requirement to have at least 18 inches above the crown of the road has created another issue. So especially if you are on a slope street, where here is somebody at the bottom and now you're going to build over here and you need to be higher than the road. So now you're almost double higher than the adjacent house. Granted that, you know, you could build, you know, 35-foot height building. So out of that, you could make a 2- or 3-story building with no problem. So there's a lot of legal issues that we have to look into.
No, I understand. It is a seesaw. I have one poor family. The new house next door, they can look from the new house garage window looks down into the neighbor's bathroom. So I understand it's a seesaw. I understand there's a lot of issues, but I think they're thorny ones that we have to approach, and particularly considering how expensive beachfront property is and all that. Yes.
Anybody like to speak to any of these? Yes, Commissioner McGurk.
Kind of just, you know, we talk about each one that you brought up is extensive. Mm-hmm. So I'm willing to just give you a brief summary on my opinion of each one, but I'm going to get lost on all of them. So bear with me. So regarding, if I understand what you're talking about just now, homes being built bigger than other homes and putting water on other people's property.
It does do that, and we also are doing a lot of work now where the water retention systems are underground, so there's less open area in general. So it's a whole different way of handling stormwater systems.
So there's residential, existing residential, where individual homes are built. That's happening in all the older neighborhoods where new homes are going up. So the issue with that is very simple. We are guided by federal and state regulations to be above the base flood elevation. So There's nothing we're gonna do to be able to stop that from happening, and the reality of what's happening is, anyone who owns an older home that sits below the base flood elevation, which keeps getting increased little by little over time, the federal government's overall plan there is to make us rebuild. That's what's happening there. So anyway, I just want to go through a process, touch on big commercial developments, including homes. You know, so is your concern with those properties flooding existing?
Well, no, I mean, that's generic all around. When I'm talking more about the commercial, I'm talking more about how right now, in many areas of the city, people can functionally open a 24-hour fast food restaurant on the other side of your backyard fence.
Okay, so that's not flooding issue.
No, that's not necessarily.
Okay.
They're two different issues.
Okay, so touching on that issue, here's my take on it, my own personal opinion on it. When you had US 1, Flagler, or Canal, we're not talking about fast food necessarily, the properties are so small. Consider US 1 used to be all residential home sites,
I know.
which so there's not a whole lot we can do along there, because we've had to try to get reinvestment and revitalize US 1. We've had to work at buffers and setbacks. The new current zoning setbacks and buffers, where people would buy large tracts of land or an acre or two and develop a single commercial project, when we applied those kind of current zoning guidelines to old parcels like on US 1, it didn't work. So if you're talking about State Road 44, I get it. The best scenario is transitioning commercial into residential, to transitional use, which I think city staff tries to do. Now, my take on the ABC that you were just talking about, or the Verizon store, where the issue we just had to deal with.
And they're great neighbors.
So
Those are great ones.
I didn't get from any of them that their problem was it was only the house or two that were going to be next to the project. We had everyone come in from the entire street. And people in the entire street opposed, if I recall, a restaurant. They wanted a less use. And I commend them for that. I would also say that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're looking at where we want to deal with what you're specifically talking about, I don't want to, it wasn't just a house or two adjacent to it. It was the entire neighborhood.
What I'm suggesting is that we have many of these areas, and that since we're working on our land development regulations now, that we consider restricting businesses to certain types in those areas where those two abut. So that, for example, you know, So it's just, we do have the ability within our land development regulations to exclude certain types of businesses from areas. And so that's what I would suggest.
What I'd be willing to do is, if there's certain uses that seem more evasive next to residential property, come up with maybe a bigger buffer for certain kinds of uses, not necessarily excluding. So I'm certainly willing to say on 44, not on Canal, not on Flagler, not on US 1, but where the property is big enough for the possibility of creating a bigger buffer for certain uses, I'm certainly open to that.
Well, and I would not pretend to write the land development regulations for our staff. I was just asking that that be an issue that be examined.
Any other comment, Commissioner Hartman?
So my concern on that particular topic is that if we say we're now going to restrict smoke shops from B2, that would have to be a citywide thing, and I think that would open us up into a huge can of worms. So I think staff has a feel for what we think is appropriate and what is New Smyrna Beach. I think they do a good job on trying to curtail some of that stuff. And I've heard from a couple developers going, the staff told me you guys didn't want this, or you guys didn't like that idea, so I had to change my idea. And I think that's staff's job, and I think they're doing a very good job at that, so I commend them on that. The issue I want to talk on the specific was, I'm not in favor of giving you consensus for you to form your own group to go talk to the county about issues that you perceive we have or don't have. I think that needs to come from the city manager's office.
And that would make me perfectly happy. I was trying to take the onus off anybody else, since, you know, I know that there's a unique group of us that face it so hard. I'm more than willing for somebody else to do it, but I can't figure out any other way to get restricted funds for the beachside maintenance. And I'm open to any and all ideas to do that. So.
And I echo that. I echo getting some funding. I mean, if it was a surtax that we could put on to, you know.
Well, what I
special
thought
tax-
on the beach ramp, if we had, I don't care whether it's 50 cents added, right now the New Smyrna beach ramps receive more vehicles than any other ramps in Volusia County. So that if there were, say, 100 vehicles going on all ramps in Volusia County, by apportioning it by the number of vehicles, we would get the lion's share of that $100. And should that ratio change, that would continue to protect the other coastal towns. So I'm looking for a methodology for protected income for beachside maintenance.
Any other comments? No? Okay. Maybe City Manager, you can enlighten us between you, Mr. Reckewald, and Jessica, if there is an avenue to pursue assistance, a way to take the burden off of what we get as the most popular beach. And since we just get a portion of the entire Volusia County available funds to spend, Commissioner Martin, and I agree, favors some technique for us to get assistance with the load that we carry, which is a bigger burden than the rest of the municipalities that have beach access. Is there a technique that you know of?
I'm not aware of any technique. However, I think I could approach the county in that regard. But then again, I mean, you got from Ormond Beach all the way to New Smyrna that they have beach accesses. The fund that they use, and if you remember, there was some motion to waive the fee and have the beach access free, if you remember. And that's what kind of impact would it have on the county budgets if they do that. So whether you add something to it or whether you take from it. Now, when you're saying an impact when you're saying for beachside, so it would be restricted to where we could use it. Could you use it only along the coast? Could you use it, like, for example, can I use it at the west end of Flagler? So that type of questions, I guess, but I will approach the county manager and see if there is any, any possibility of making this happen, whether we look something maybe collectively, the cities look at it. I know we didn't have any managers meeting this month. I'm sure there'll be a meeting in January. Maybe I could present it at that time from a collective city managers along the coast and see if that's something, it's a positive that they're willing to even, fight with us with that.
Excellent. I think that would be helpful. Anything else from Commissioner Martin? All right.
But Mayor, if I may, before we move on, because she mentioned one, so I'm assuming this approaching the county would offset the item for you saying generate revenue for beachside maintenance?
Well, I mean, I would assume it would be, from the river eastward or whatever point is designated. If we are talking about all coastal communities in Volusia County, there may be a different demarcation point for each. And I just thought that as coastal communities coming together, working together, that we had a stronger case to be made.
So what's an example of maintenance?
Oh, dear Lord. From the trash, from a higher fire department utilization. I'm sure the chief of police will tell you that there's much more police utilization. The roads are broken down. No sooner do the roads get patched than they're cracked open again. Between the water, between the number of cars, we've got these very narrow streets that can take, I don't know, and maybe Chief Feldman can answer this, 40,000 cars a day on the weekend? Yeah, so, and it's concentrated into a small area. It's not like it's spread out over most of the 41 miles of New Smyrna Beach. So I think every department ends up in its own way getting impacted by that heavy usage.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Thank you, City Manager. Now, I think we'll go on to the next item, which is Commissioner Hartman's.
Yes, and...
Set that up if you would, sir.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Hartman has sent me an item for discussion, and his item was how to improve the application of special events. For example, perhaps require a parking plan if they close their lots during special events. So
Yeah, we've kind of addressed it the last couple of meetings on some of these special event application forms. The form is a generic form, and so there's particular areas that may apply, not apply. But, you know, in some of those issues, we had approved a special event process for Light Up Flagler, but we didn't know it included a golf cart parade and a doggy parade. None of that was in the application form. None of that was, you know, that showed up on the flyer. So I think we also need to look, when we're doing these things, is maybe relook at the whole thing and are there consequences if you don't follow what you submitted in your application form. And then the other thing was, once or twice a year, we have these events where they close their parking lots. Cinco de Mayo is one of them, where a couple of the establishments on Flagler will close their parking lot. I would just like for them to have to include some form of what's their plan to where they're going to park these cars. Because you've taken these cars out of their lot, which they're required to have parking spaces, and now you're going to push them onto the streets. I'd like to see if they have an alternative, you know, ask them to have, what's your alternative plan for how are you going to park these cars? You know, where are your employees going to park during this time period? Or are you going to close the entire parking lot or maybe just a portion of that parking lot? So I think that's something, and I think the whole application process needs to be looked at, and I think we've talked about that the last couple of meetings, is that maybe that whole form needs to be reevaluated and get some new updates to that and something that's more relevant as we push forward.
Well, I certainly speak in favor of what the essence of the form is, just the crux. And I'm glad Director Salazar's here to hear all this, because this probably falls on your shoulders, Rob. The city manager yanked back a bunch of things off the consent agenda because we have people that are gaming the system now, and we've kind of complained that, okay, too soon next to the event, like the day before the event, it comes before the commission. We don't like that. Now we've banged the other end of the corner. A year from now, we're going to have a light up canal, and so that application is in. It's probably inappropriate because it doesn't fit with all the other scheduled events, Rob, that you know, or you may know, you may have knowledge of, that occur along the way. And all of the features that he talks about that are hidden, that pop out at the end, doesn't seem fair to your staff or you. We've got to find the way to not get surprised in that. The umbrella over the top of it is, many have come to me and others on the dais here to say, where do I go to find out what's going on in your town? I don't have a place to go. And we have tried a little bit to get the commission, to get the Chamber of Commerce, the FABA, the Canal Avenue, and the Visitors Bureau to work together. Not happening. Been a year. The city connectors, a group of folks that were going to try to do that, just not happening. Sadly, sir, Rob, I think, it's righteous that nothing happens in this city on an entertainment front that you don't know, that you should have knowledge of, or somebody on your staff have knowledge of, so that it can be put out and published in one central place, and they go, where do you go? I contact the city. Our leisure services knows everything about what's going on around town, regardless of whether it's under your purview or not. Private events, public events. Back in the day, this was a church event, and so there was a local community of churches, and one of the churches had the lead, and they wrote up the plan for how to do everything, and they did all the permitting, what have you. That's evolved now. You have the dot in many ways. The commissioner's right on the form, but the form is the starting point. There's so much more to be done to make our citizens well-informed so we can attend different things, and to lessen your load for making sure you don't have 5 events stacked up one after the other, and the citizenry has to now choose between event A and event B. It gets kind of wheedled out. And you've got a history now. You've been here long enough. You've got a history of, you know, what events happen year over year, and so you can kind of wedge things in. And there are going to be people vying. Maybe there's a venue for a planning session, a quarterly planning session, whatever that might be. But what you've got is you've got gamesmanship going on right now. So Flagler wants to jump on Canal because they've just put in for the same night the Canal normally has their light up their street. So now you've got one street competing against the other street, and that will get worse as time goes on. And if you hold the line for saying, hey, I don't want your last minute reservations, the commission protests that, you'll have people put it in a year in advance, and I don't think that's fair to you either. That's just my general comment. Any others, Commissioner, Vice Mayor?
So I want to elaborate on Commissioner Hartman's comment about the special events in the forum. Just had an excellent example of that last night. I think it was last night. This week is for Tuesday night. And it was with the car show. This was something that was put on our agenda Wednesday night, okay? And we have it on our plates on Tuesday. So that's just a few days. And I know from just my phone call to the people that have been doing that, they've spent about $9,000 of their own money for this. And in the past, we've waived some of those fees for the other car show people. But, and we gave this car show a year free, basically. But what I didn't know and wasn't included in our agenda was, why did Canal Street Business Association not approve to help subsidize their event and these permits? Because to me, this car show helps the businesses on Canal. And it's the same way with Flagler. They kick in. They pay a lot of the wine walks. They pay a lot of these special events for the parking or the permits. So why is it the Canal Street Business Association didn't approve this? Liz Jones said that they denied this. So a little bit more on it. So I would like, instead of them coming back again in 3 months that we voted on and going through this all again with the whole room full, again, we usually end up pulling a lot of these items that are in consent. That wasn't consent. But we pull it because we don't have enough information to make a good judgment call. And one of the things we've been trying to do for a very long time is have people have skin in the game, which means the businesses on Canal, not a private individual. And we've said that over and over again. We're not going to fund every nonprofit, so we gave them 50%. And I get we have overhead that we have to cover, but we also provide a service to make the city charming. So there is a nice balance between all of this, between what we do for the chamber, what we do for Flagler, what we do for Canal. And I don't know how you can get all of this in on one form, but these are the kind of questions that we're going to ask before anyone stands up here. My very first question is, why isn't Canal Street funding this?
Good points, and I think you came up to enlighten us all.
I want to touch on a few of the topics you guys brought up. I'm going to start with Commissioner Hartman. regarding the parking at the events when the lots are closed, typically for what Flagler does is FABA has a handshake agreement with Coronado Methodist to utilize their lot for additional parking when the FABA events are going on. I asked FABA this last go-round for documentation of that agreement so I can bring it to you to show. That doesn't exist yet. I'm going to ask that they have something in writing to give to me to say, like, here's the official plan. So I'm working on getting a little more meat on the bone to justify and explain what actually is going on for when these applications come around. Regarding the form itself.
Before you go past parking, I think Commissioner Martin and many others brought up the opportunity for a bimodal form of transportation, and I don't know that we could ever force that except for special events. I don't know if you want to put your toe in the water and say, hey, if you're going to block the whole street off, we want you to contract with a company that uses a tram and bring people in and out. It won't start unless we do something, is my view. And it's expense, but it is one way to get the bimodal vibe of not everybody has to drive their car to the event.
So just for clarity, you're asking when Flagler Avenue or Flagler Tavern, we'll use them as the example, when they have a festival in their lot.
No, when the street's blocked.
No, you're talking about the whole street. Whole street's blocked.
Mardi Gras, think Mardi
Okay,
Gras
got
coming
it.
up.
Okay, so when FABA has the street closed for whatever the event coming up is, you're recommending a tram to transport.
Just a suggestion.
Coming from where, I guess is,
No idea.
don't know.
You got it?
Well, it used to be that Brian at Paradiso Sports had 6 or 8 seat low-speed vehicles. He has insurance, he has maintenance, he has spare vehicles. He's got a lot. I mean, he could do a turnkey system very easily. Now with the Carlisle parking lot right beside that, the low-speed vehicle sales store and lease, there could easily be something on Atlantic between Flagler and that parking area at 3rd and Atlantic, combined with the, those vehicles. It's turnkey. I've been saying for now years. It's something that could be started next week.
Sir. Yeah, that's good input. Yes, sir.
Actually, I'm gonna, just to add to where you're going with that, where, right?
He also has the manpower.
But listen, where you park people. We had this about 5-7 years ago. We got rid of, for the most part, temporary parking lots, which basically were unpaved. And we got into this whole concept of we got to pave everything, pave everything, pave everything. And one of the things that we started addressing, which, got a significant amount of support, Russ would bring it up a lot, was why are we always having to pave everything? Private property, have parking, unpaved parking, you could do some stuff to it to fix it up a little nice. But there's a lot of possibilities that open up with this kind of thing. If people were allowed to have, use empty lots, and essentially, they used to be always referred to as temporary parking lots because you get the first year and then a second year, and then you can lobby for a third, then you have to pave. But in this discussion, allowing for unpaved parking lots, I would say would help in a big way, helping to move this forward.
Go ahead, Rob. We're now, anybody else on parking? We gave you more than you wanted on parking.
It's okay.
You're going to go back to the form now.
Okay, the form. I definitely agree that an update to the form is probably past due. I can look at maybe condensing or prioritizing how that's, organized. I will say that when I bring the forms to the commission for your approval, they are signed off and reviewed by every department that is impacted. before they get to you. And I know I get a lot of questions about the events, but I wouldn't bring them if it didn't get past all the city departments before already. So some of the forms have been, there's a lot of information on the forms. There's some boxes that don't get checked all the time, that may not be applicable or may give wishy-washy yes and no answers. So I'm trying to clarify those forms the best I can. So some of that stuff does need to be cleaned up, certainly. And I'll look at doing an amendment to the form and having a new version. So that's no problem.
About the timing of submission. What do you think about that?
So I talked with Colin about this maybe a couple weeks ago, and to me it's a catch-22, because if somebody brings a application to me and it's 2 weeks, a month, whatever our deadline is going to be before their event, and I tell them no, you don't hit the deadline, it's not going to happen. Sorry, I can't help you. Then they're going to call him, or they're going to call you, or whoever they're going to call. And they're going to be, hey, Rob says I can't have the event. Well, this event's been going on for 18 years. How can we not have this event? So now it's going to come back downhill to me and said, Rob, you need to have the event. So it's putting me in, I already see this coming and I know it's going to happen. It's a tough spot to be in. We can do that, but I know that's what's going to happen when we go down that road, if we put a deadline on it like that. At least initially, for sure.
I think without advertising, just a curtain event where you say, oh, sorry, too late, is not right, not fair. But if we advertise, hey, starting on January, whatever you want, we need whatever the window you say you want, we contact all the usual suspects, right? You know they are. Just say, hey,
yes.
Spend a day, make the phone call, say, hey, no lie, it's coming now. I don't mean to problem solve for you, but I get it. But unless it makes us a paper lion up here, because if we don't hold a line, then there is no standard.
Well, that's kind of how I feel on occasion as well with these events, because I don't really have an authority to approve or deny them. I basically process them for your approval. And then it comes to you to say yay or nay. So that's kind of what my role is in the process currently. So
let me jump in here for a minute, Rob, because this is a very, very touchy subject. So if somebody submits a month in advance, it's no good. And if they submit a year in advance, it's no good. So what is good? Is it 3 months, 4 months, 5 months? I think no matter what we do, I think it's going to be an issue. So if we submit it, like for example, if somebody submitted a month in advance, and it's an event that, as we discussed, him and I, that is going on for 20 years, and now we're going to deny it because they didn't submit the application in 3 months. I'm not sure how that's going to go. And I could tell you from that seat I'm sitting on, it doesn't go good because I'm sure we will have the event. So I think Rob and we talked about, I really have an issue with the application. I really do have a major issue with the application. It's lengthy, it's not a user-friendly. There's a lot of items there that I'm not sure if they're there, why they're there. But I want to make sure if there is any item there that if there is a reason for it, then we need to check it. If not, put not applicable in it. Because what I'm getting is from most of you, well, what is this? Why it's not filled? Well, if it's not filled, what is it? Is it yes? Is it no? So we will go back and come back with a reasonable time. The other issue I want to mention to you, Maya, that we have been meeting with the Visitors Bureau on a consolidated event, and they have come up with the software that I think we're tweaking it at the end. So we have made some progress there. So just wanted to let you know that was in the progress. I haven't talked to them recently, but I don't know if you have. But I'm sure that after the new year, we'll be talking to Debbie and the rest of her staff about that, so.
Could that be a check block on the form? Have you registered this with our media outlet?
So what the Visitors Bureau has is they have a online calendar that pulls as a geofence around Southeast Volusia. So any event that's posted on social media or Facebook or a website, it automatically is pulling in, whether it's indoors or outdoors or Oak Hill or New Smyrna Beach or Edgewater, wherever. And it's auto-populating to their master calendar, which has all the events that are going on it. So they have that tool, and I've directed some people to that to get because that's the best we have right now. I know this has been something that's been on your radar, Mayor, for a while. If we're looking to have an event marketing department czar, an event czar, somebody who's managing this, event calendar, that's a full-time job trying to wrangle that. So if that's what your wish is, I don't mind accommodating that, but I'm going to be asking for an FTE to do so. Just full transparency. And I understand the importance of doing it. It's just that's a big ask to manage that type of platform. Following up on what Vice Mayor Perrine had regarding the Canal Street merchants in the car show. From my recollection, when the previous organizer was still here, when the East Coast Cruisers were with us doing the show, and there was, when the falling out happened between the merchants and the cruisers, there was some type of discussion amongst the two parties about mending the fence to maintain the show. And I think at that time, you question me, why aren't the merchants stepping up to help keep the show alive, make sure the show's going? I think that was really the last discussion between the merchants and whoever the car show organizer is. Because following that, the Caswell stepped in, and we initially approved the 3-month fee waiver for the show, and then we extended that for the whole year. So I don't necessarily think there's been the opportunity or the need to have that conversation yet. So that's probably why it hasn't happened, because of the situation between the show and the city and what we had granted. So now that that's in flux again, I think as Liz Jones stated at the commission meeting, she was going to take that back to the merchants to see if there was interest in helping keep the show the way it is.
Thank you. That makes sense, because my point was they've had a year to figure out and get sponsors for that. I think it was a bad assumption on this part that we would fund that forever. So just to know that they needed to find a sponsor, they had a year to do it, and to kind of put it on our plate and from a Wednesday to a Tuesday to make that decision without knowing all the details made it difficult for us. So we scrambled for an answer. Commissioner Hartman came up with one. I don't want them to leave, but I think they should have done a little bit of more research and had a sponsor, co-sponsor, whatever available for us before that, before we were waylaid. Some things I think could require better planning. It's not really coming from you, but maybe words from you saying, hey, the commission's not funding everything now. Our taxpayers, our budgets are tight. What can you do to be ready with all this information ahead of time before it even hits us? That would be so nice.
Sure. So I did speak with the Caswells at length prior to bringing that item back to you for consideration on Tuesday. We've spoken numerous times over the last few months about what's going on with the car show, what's the future entail, these are our expenses. So I had asked them to, give me a recommendation of how they felt that their best way forward was going to be, and how the city fit into that as a potential partner, as a potential whatever our role is. I think we all agree we don't want the car show to leave, and we all want to see that continue to be successful. As I told Commissioner Hartman yesterday, I'm open to whatever remedy or solution may be out there to keep this car show going. But I can't, I have to take direction from you, and when, I know the organizers sent that lengthy email last night as well about, their opinion on what transpired. I present what I feel is the best option, and you guys give me feedback to what you guys feel is the best option. So I think moving forward, I'm kind of working through the city manager, trying to understand what your opinion is, what the best, forming my recommendation through him to get back to you. So that's kind of a roundabout way of, I'm trying to get you guys the best information I can. It's just kind of a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, appreciate that. Did you say you did receive some communications from them?
From the Caswells?
Yeah.
Yes, I spoke with them before.
Got it. Very good. Yes, ma'am.
Just a couple of quick notes. Item 13.9 on the application says a detailed parking plan is required for all parking areas. So I think it's an indication of a disconnect. I think a lot of these forms have been filled out so often or so long that they're just not really looked at anymore. And I think that's what's happened and what leads to some of the disconnect where you say everybody signed off on it. Well, yeah, it's the same form, then same thing that it's been done for the last 20 years, except as we all know, a lot has changed in this city in the last 20 years.
I would like to add on that, Commissioner Martin. We've had a handful of events I know recently that have closed lots or taken spots from lots, and the response back from the organizer and that it's been, well, we're not replacing those spots. The spots are gone, and that's what it is. And that's been approved through PD, who reviews that portion of the application. So in a situation like that,
I am saying that I think there's a disconnect between what we do by rote, just by habit, so that we know that it says a parking plan is required, but everybody's so accustomed to it just being the same thing over and over again.
Sure.
Good old 13.9 is never checked. So I'm not saying anybody's wrong. I'm just saying we've operated by custom, not by document. So, by the way, I was under the impression that the Canal Street Historic District was interested in giving financial support to the car show. That was the impression I got, that would be worked out.
Yeah, from Tuesday?
Yeah, that was the impression I got.
Liz said she was going to take that back to her merchants and then speak to them.
So I'm not sure that that's a lost cause.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. I don't think that's a lost cause, but it just hasn't happened yet. So I can't forecast.
We can't forecast, but we can't say it's gone, because I think that there is still a good chance that that alternate means will be found to support the car show. How's that? Okay. And in complete agreement with the mayor that these events that have been going on for 20 years, we know who they are, and we could say 3 months beforehand, give them a ring and say, hey, we haven't seen your application. We need it by X date, or you're going to lose out this year. I mean, how many can there be? 10? No, the ones that have been going on for 20 years, you know. I mean, the car show's been around for a while, and we know there are some. But, hey, how about this? The ones that have been around for a while, you could get each of the commissioners in which that zone is occurring, like make me responsible for calling my people and saying, hey, it's time to get it in.
I want to hold you to that.
You know, I mean, we share the responsibility
Sure.
for making sure
Sure. No,
things are done
understood.
well in our zones.
I understand.
That, Mr. Salazar would be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, and considering I've got Flagler Avenue, do you know I may never get off the phone, but still.
Thank you.
All righty. Commissioner Hartman, do we flush that out sufficiently
so,
for you?
yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, what's next?
All right, Mayor, the next item on the agenda, then, that is typically what we have is open discussion. And that's where you could bring any topic that you, on your mind, that you want to speak to the commission about, since you really don't have much time during city commission meeting to talk about any item in your mind that you want to share with the commission and get their views on. So I received 2 requests. One is from Mayor Cleveland, and he wanted to discuss transportation/mobility department establishment. The second one is revitalization/acceleration of business development results. And then Mayor Perrine, she sent me 2 items. One is mobility plans as Florida League of Cities supports that. And then the other one is the sovereign immunity.
Very good. Let's start with the Vice Mayor.
So, Mayor, if you want to lead your 2 items, and then...
let's start with the Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor Perrine will...
So 2 of the items are actually copies of legislation that's going to Tallahassee January 30th, 31st, and that's sovereign immunity and mobility. All I did with that was just send the bill that we tweaked when we were in Orlando last month. But I wanted to relay that on how it impacts us as a city. I asked Carrie in Finance and Khalid if they did change the sovereign immunity from a cap of, our current cap is $200,000 for trip and falls, to $400,000 and $600,000. What would that impact be on our insurance, so we can predict and be prepared for a budget, because sometimes they make those retroactive, sometimes they don't. That's part of the legislation that we're fighting. So with that, it's a 25% increase, and I did ask them to send you those numbers of that impact on our current budget if that got passed. We don't want that passed. We're trying to fight that, but it's the trial attorneys that are actually pushing that forward. Just to give you an idea, last year they were asking for over $1 million on caps, and that failed, and the bill got tweaked, and they're sending it again to Tallahassee. And if that were to pass on some small cities, it would be a detriment. They would have to close down and the state take them over. It's that bad. So luckily, we have a little bit of notice. We've got to be prepared. We are trying to protect our small towns. And from a state side, we have the Florida League of Cities, we have the Volusia League of Cities, as we heard Tuesday night, fighting for these type of things that we're taking to Tallahassee. So you have the numbers. We just need to be aware of that. We don't want we don't want that bill to be passed, because it would be indeed, $700,000-800,000 that we would have to come up with. That's unexpected. The other thing, mobility, how does that relate to local wise? And a couple of things, Collis said, we'll bring that up during this conversation. We've been looking at private and public partnerships in many different areas and thinking outside the box. We've also been challenging our staff to give us numbers and provide us numbers of each enterprise of our accounting, and not only the enterprises that are separated, but the items that hit the general funds that we don't actually see. We unanimously asked to get budget numbers on the shuffleboard courts recently. And the only reason I brought that up, because we've looked at City Marina, we've looked at the golf course, we've looked at the Brandon Center, we looked at all of these areas. So we said, do we go forward on this on one of our past meetings? And it was unanimous, yes, it's at least worth a look into that area since we have a need. It's the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to touch the shuffleboards, but when they give us $15 a year per person, that's really okay. If we look at it as that's where we want to go, we'll continue that. It's a service, in our community. It's historical, but I challenge you to think we've got a building there that's only making, and I'm just jumping on numbers here, $40 every time they rent it out. Or the bathroom plumbing, they've been speaking to us and Commissioner Martin about it's been overflowing. So we can't neglect the maintenance. So when we look at these things overall, we need to look at, is that the best future use for that area with the parking lot and the trees and the roosters and the benches? And we've been getting letters about the roosters on their benches. And it's just a time, I think, from the citizens' feedback, it's time to look at it all at the same time. We have the pickleball people submitting checks to us all the time because the trend has made it where we need more pickleball courts. We need shuffleboard, but we also have a lot of beautiful parks with trees and not have them under concrete. So just saying what I'm regurgitating what the community is telling me. I think there's 200 people in the shuffleboard, but we have 32,000 citizens, and we have a huge need for parking. So our parking task force was apprehensive about even touching that subject because it's been touched in the past, but we're not doing service of our board if we ignore 32,000 people and cater to 200. So I would suggest that we just look at that. Now, ADUs were mentioned by Commissioner Martin. This is a huge topic for me. ADUs for the public is accessory dwelling units. Basically, it's the little garage apartments in the back of your home. So one of the things we have a challenge for in our own city is affordable housing. And so I've reached out to some city planners in other tourist cities and asked them, what are some of your challenges and how have you been approaching this? And to think outside the box of some cities, what they've done is they've encouraged people that have a garage with plenty ample parking already to build a little garage apartment in their backyard, not 3 stories high that block your view. I don't like that. But what they're doing is build that apartment and house senior citizens and house residents that have been a part of your community, work in your community, and have been a citizen for a year. Our servers, our teachers, our policemen, anyone that's maybe a very small family, 1 or 2 people, senior citizens, and help them to have a place to live. Disallow short-term rentals in those garage apartments, make sure they have parking, and give them an incentive to have somebody on your site in the back of your home. And it increases the opportunity. Maybe don't charge a full amount that somebody would get for a rental like that. And so I reached out to Teresa Pope on this, and she said, absolutely, we would actually monitor this and look into this. And if the person didn't want to put their senior in the back of it, they didn't have one, they wanted us to help with that, we would be happy to help with that. So these are just things outside the box that a lot of cities in Florida are doing it. If you go online and research ADUs and what Florida housing is doing, this is huge in all these cities. They already have a list of cute renderings, and they also have the pros and cons for each city. Everything has to be tweaked. But as we're talking about beautifying Flagler Avenue, the costs are going to go up, equals that is also the cost of the housing goes up. And we're going to push our own residents out of the city and not being able to afford in the old town, like we call it. Are we going to have affordable housing out in this area? We didn't even touch on that in our innovative park. But if they can work and live and walk, that might be some answers, but we're going to have those needs in town as well. And when you put them literally in your backyard like this, which you always hear people don't want it in their backyard, but now they really do want it in their backyard because it's in their apartment behind them and they have a say of who's going into that accessory dwelling unit. So I just encourage you, if we're looking at LDRs and incentives of how we can make this an option and keep it to where it's not 3 stories, because we don't have to do anything, and look, they do it anyway. So we need to be proactive on our future thinking, just like we are with the balance to our budget. We need to be proactive with what we're allowing in our backyards as well. And that is one good way, and I'm going to be sharing this information with the cities that this has been successful in, and I'm going to be sharing a whole PowerPoint presentation. You can say no if you want, but it's just something to think outside the box.
Yeah, Commissioner Martin.
Yeah, ADUs can be very valuable, but for one thing, they can be expressed, for example, in a percentage of the size of the main house. And trust me, Beachside has a lot of, shall we say, secondary entrances to primary residence. But the way the LDRs are now, I can build almost anything in my yard, call it an ADU, as long as I have some type of an attachment, like, say, a pergola, to the main house. And so it's not, I'm not dissing, if you will, ADUs. I'm suggesting that we could handle them better through our LDRs. What you're suggesting is very valuable, and I know it's being done on a de facto basis now, just how we handle it. And by the way, 2 things when we talk about the shuffleboard courts. I believe the membership for the shuffleboard club is larger than that of the pickleball club. They're just not as visible. You don't see them as much. And they do pay into the city, and we're on a mandated basis, as opposed to when they collect money and choose to give it to us, right? So the shuffleboard courts are mandated. Also, if anything happens to the Coronado Civic Center, we have no community center for Beachside, and that puts us arbitrarily back into the position of, say, Venetian Bay, where there's no gathering place out there. So I don't want to create a need where there really isn't one now. So there's a lot of reasons. Plus, that little clubhouse is in the National Historic Registry. I think it's 1937, is it, for that little clubhouse? So it's a lot more complex property than any one issue. And I believe, again, Flagler is a big economic driver, and that's part of the, isn't it so cute to see those shuffleboard courts? So I think it's also taking away that setting the stage for what makes that area different than other towns. Thank you.
City Manager, maybe you can enlighten us on the LDR issue. Is it now permitted to do what Commissioner Perrine suggested? And is there a way to, should the commission's will be that we make that attractive and offer discounts, et cetera, et cetera? Is that not set up today? It's set up strictly that it's forbidden, and in the future it could be changed to enhance it, or is it okay now and there's just no incentives to do it?
To be honest with you, I cannot recall at this point. So I don't want to tell you yes or no, but we could look at it and get back with you on that one.
Is it the will of the commission to have it examined by the city manager and get back to us to understand what the current view is, and then we can either pick up where Commissioner Perrine left off and said, we want to encourage that, or nope, we want to leave it alone?
I would be in favor of it if we're also going to look at non-conforming lots. We have a couple of non-conforming lots that are smaller than what's allowed to be built on. Or certainly you could build a tiny home or something of that nature that would help with the housing.
Love that.
So, you know, that was something that I pushed for a few years ago and never got anywhere. So
Any
if we're
objection to
gonna- if we're gonna
including
look at-
tiny home? I don't think so.
If we're going to look at one, I think we should look at all of our options for dwelling structures, whether they're tiny homes on, you know, non-conforming lots or something along that line.
Do you remember the suggestion also to have the freight, the
Connex boxes.
the freight cars, like they use on trains, and they use those a lot in building in other areas?
Connex boxes.
Connex box, fine.
Connex,
The Connex boxes. I mean, I'm all in favor of looking at all forms of this, but do understand that ADUs are now legal in New Smyrna Beach. They're here.
We'll look forward to sort of your presentation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so, Vice Mayor, did we cover, did you have a mobility one, or is that my imagination?
The mobility portion
And then
that,
the sovereign's immunity.
Okay, very good.
All right. And Mayor, your items.
Yeah, the Mobility and Transportation Department. So I think my point there was going to be, it's about Mobility and Transportation Department. Right now, one of the most perplexing issues that we've heard commission after commission after commission is that we have a flow issue, we have a parking issue, we have a traffic issue, we have an special event issue. It goes up when we have seasonality, it goes down. Do we really have the numbers to justify more? Right now, it seems to be a pass around, a little bit of building department, a little bit of police department, and now having the parking task force finish their work, the city manager is taking it on full time, which is a nice boost to get it cranked up, but I suggest that you will not have time to continue in that vein ongoing, and not to build the infrastructure, but if there was ever a need to have somebody that was full-time as an owner of how we move our folks around and interact with other agencies like the state, like the county, that would be a lot for a full-time job. So that was just my way to say, hey, like that you're gonna get a consultant, he'll come and he'll go, we'll have some ideas, but on the day-to-day carrying it out, I don't think, Colin, you have the time to do that in perpetuity.
Yeah.
And so my thought was, since it's such a big deal to the town, leaving it to the tragedy of the commons, which means police chief does it sometime, a little bit in his lane, code enforcement, permitting, it's not a unified plan.
Mayor,
That was where I was.
and I don't think I disagree with you there. That's why we have the consultant to do this. And one of the items that we actually discussed with him, we received the proposal yesterday, but somehow, by the way, he was here. He spoke, Sans Lassiter, he spoke, but he somehow forgot to put that item on the thing. But one of his tasks is creating and establishing the mobility transportation department. So that will be there. I don't think there's anybody on staff that will handle that part of it. So hopefully we'll create that. But I just want to make sure I have an action plan of how to create it and where to start and where to end. So
Thank you. I would not have put that on had I known that, but thank you for getting it moving. Thank you very much. And then where I was at on the revitalization / acceleration of the business development results, we've got a good relationship with the Southeast Volusia Tech Tech Manufacturing Group, but the net result is a one business a year. We're never going to prosperity on one business a year. And so I know Director Edwards is doing all that he knows how to do. And this is not a slap at him at all. But unless we change the calculus, and this proposal you brought up this morning may be the change that we're after, unless we change the calculus, one new event, one new business a year in New Smyrna is never going to change the math to the increasing cost of ad valorem taxes on the residents and shift the balance from 90-10 to anything different. So my my comment for my colleagues here was a desire to do something different. I don't know what it is, city manager. I've heard that the city manager is the best economic development engine that any city can have. And you've got one. You've got one now that you've got one idea that has come up and you've finally coming true. Maybe that will be the thing that changes the calculus.
And I think it's, Mayor, as I mentioned, I think this is really the turning point in economic development. And our city is unique in terms of the property available within the mainland side. So not only that, but if you remember, just I guess 6-7 months ago, Chick-fil-A was trying to open on 44. What happened?
Residents jumped in and said, not here.
So it got pushed out. And that's what I was saying about welcoming. And so, everybody wants Chick-fil-A, but not in my backyard, not on 44, not on US 1. I'm not sure where else we could have a Chick-fil-A. So now imagine this is Chick-fil-A that everybody likes. So now imagine if we have a manufacturer that is relocating from somewhere from out of state. I think dealing with these issues, I've talked to a couple of business owners, and they said, we would never do any project in here. And the question is, one of them has spent over $1 million, and the return on investment is 0. So when people hear these stories, here is a local business in New Smyrna, spend $1 million on trying to do a project, and his return on investment is 0. Why would I come in to spend money in New Smyrna to do a business? I wouldn't. So unless if we change from within, I think it's going to be difficult, Mayor, to even get close to balancing the equation. And again, I'm not saying just bring any business. That's why we were a little bit restricted on the permitted use on that thing. It's just for that purpose, because we know that right now we're going through some of the noise issues, dust issues, but we have to take a stance on where are we going. And if we wanted to do economic development, then we have to take a stance on economic development, and we have to make sure that everything we do trying to accomplish that goal. So, and I will do my best to get there, but without the support of the commission, I would not be able to do anything. So
I think you got to hear that loud and clear from us this morning. We're interested in what you have brought with the Deering Park idea. So if that becomes the game changer, wonderful. If it's done without damaging our way of life and our coastal community, fantastic. But something has to change, or we will be pricing ourselves out of the market for people, regular folks, to live here.
But Mayor, I just want to take a moment, if you are. I just want to thank the commission. I mean, this discussion is helpful for the staff, just so we know where the commission is at in terms of, what they're thinking. So I just want to make sure that we appreciate. I don't think this is one of the best times that I feel like we are really dealing with the commission, because it's out in the sunshine, and you guys could have a free discussion on some of different topics. So your support is appreciated. Staff is appreciate the support. Staff is eager to move forward. We have a new year coming. As you heard about our capital improvement projects, we got 53 projects on the pipeline. So I think you're going to see a lot of projects being completed within the next few months here. So I think that's the best satisfaction to the staff is when we get the project completed and it's satisfied to the community and to the commission. So I want to take the time also to thank the staff. As you heard, I mean, a lot of them, they're taking project management on some of these projects and maintaining to manage their department. So it's a lot of efforts on their part. So, I mean, we cannot do it without them. So we want to thank them from the bottom of my heart. So, and with that, happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate that. Any closing remarks from the Vice Mayor?
Yes, just to follow up on Commissioner Martin's. I think the people that were addressing the private public partnership in that area, maybe there is a need for community meetings there, but is that building going to need some work done to it? Maybe we can bring in more money. So now is the time to take a look at it and not neglect it like the Women's Club. I think if we're going to go forward, can we utilize that space to bring, it's not a question, just things to think about. Can we utilize that space better and keep that if there is a need? But I'd like a little bit more research of what can we do to that, because we're going to have to put some money into it. The other thing is we have meetings tonight, and I appreciate all you guys did to put this together, and you've been working us to death this week, and I know we've been working you to death this week. And after our meeting tonight, I just want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas and safe travels over the holiday, and you will see us in January. But thank you, Khalid and staff, for all you do.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Hartman.
These information sessions or workshops, I think, are good for all of us. It gives us a chance to kind of talk about things that we don't normally talk about. And I think it's also, it's a great time for us to tell staff how much we do truly appreciate them. I know there are a lot, I give David a lot of phone calls, and he's always answering my phone calls. He says, I'll get on it. So, it just, to me, I think we have the best staff of anybody, you know, in Central Florida. They're all committed to New Smyrna Beach. They're all committed to what we do and to try to bridge all those gaps that they have to bridge, you know, between us and the citizens and management and everybody else that's involved in that. So I think they do an outstanding job. So I certainly do appreciate them, and I wish them the best for this holiday season.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Martin.
Well, I have a quick question. What is the plan to fund the Transportation Mobility Department? That wasn't in this year's budget.
It was not, but if you remember, you approved the recommendation from the Parking Task Force. So
to have a consultant.
So the consultant was to look at the recommendations. One of the recommendations is the creation and establishment of the mobility department. So we haven't established it yet. So this would be part of his recommendation of how we're going to establish it. But if it does, the funding for it would be from the parking funds. Okay? It's like exactly how right now our parking enforcement are getting paid by the parking funds. That mobility would be coming from and this was the suggestion of the Parking Task Force.
Just clarity that a new department requires staff, housing.
We said that.
You know,
we said that requires pencils and pens and everything else. So.
The next one was simply, you know, I was sorry that we used Chick-fil-A as an example of a business we lost, because that's a low-income wage associated. So I can't say that I'm really crying deep tears over losing a minimum wage business, but I do look forward to working hard on the higher wage businesses, and would like, you know, all of our discussions about economic development to carry that information about where we would be on the median wage. And aside from that, I want to thank the whole staff of the city staff for a great year. And I thank you all, and you've been great. And I look forward to seeing you, well, some of you tonight, and the rest in next year.
And the reason I pointed out Chick-fil-A, it wasn't about Chick-fil-A itself. I'm just saying about a business. So whether it's a low income, high income, it was just
Well,
a
I think that's
business.
an important distinction because if we gear all of our economic development activities at minimum wage businesses, I'm not really sure we're doing ourselves a big favor. So that's all. So it was an unfortunate example. But, you know, if we lose Google or Apple, then we got a different story.
Well, even if Apple comes in here, I'm sure that they will lose them.
Khalid, you, the other city charter officers, know how I feel about you, and so does the staff. So without prolonging the meeting, very Merry Christmas, you guys. Proud of you guys. We're adjourned.